Kamala Harris and the communist left have unleashed a brutal plague of bloodshed, crime, chaos, misery, and death upon our land, and it's only going to get worse. Harris has presided over a 43% increase in violent crime, including a 58% increase in rape. She supports defund the police, and during the 2020 riots, she encouraged her followers to donate to bail criminals, looters, arsonists, and murderers. She was trying to get the murderers out of jail, right? You're shaking, right? Everybody now knows it. And this is a person that wants to be president of the United States, and she didn't get a vote. As California Attorney General, she redefined child sex trafficking, assault with a deadly weapon, and rape of an unconscious person as totally nonviolent crimes. Oh, that's nice. Starting on day one, I will seal the border and stop the migrant invasion of our country. We will carry out the largest deportation operation of criminals in the history of America. We will defeat inflation, and we will make America affordable again. We will make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far. That's called drill, baby, drill, right? Drill, baby, drill. And remember, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country. In 12 months, I will cut your energy costs in half. That means Wisconsin. We will cut it in half. And that includes your heating, air conditioning, electricity, gasoline for the cars. We'll cut it in half, and we'll do it easily. It won't even be, I think we'll do better than that. 12 months. You can hold me to it. Hold me to it. I want you to hold me to it. We're going to cut it in half. I will turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower more than it has ever been. And other countries that make us pay a heavy tax to do business with them will be charged the same tax when they send their product into the United States. And we did it to a pretty strong extent when I was president, and we were going all the way that we had to solve the COVID problem. But we will be doing that. It will be called the Reciprocal Trade Act. It's reciprocal. So if China or any other country charges us a 100 or 200% tariff or tax, then we will likewise charge them a 100 or 200% tariff or tax in return. And my message is simple. Make your product here in America and only in America. So we're going to charge tariffs to all these foreign countries that are coming in and ripping us off and taking our jobs and destroying our manufacturing. And it's what they do. We're going to do the same as they do. And, you know, some of these people that are making decisions in Washington, they're very suspect, I can tell you. Not this group. This group, that's why they're here. They hate what they see happening. We're not going to be taken advantage of anymore. We will save our economy. We will rescue our middle class. We will reclaim our sovereignty and restore our borders. We will put America first, and we will take back our country. Together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Bobby. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. We will make America free again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Wisconsin. God bless you. God bless you.
Good evening and welcome to War Room Battleground. My name is Jane Zirkle, filling in for political prisoner Steve Bannon. It is debate day eve in this critical week during the 2024 election, and for undecided voters, tomorrow's performance plays a huge role in shaping the trajectory of this race that is being fought out in battleground states. Battleground states like Wisconsin, where President Trump visited over the weekend. He held a rally in Mossonee. Wisconsin Republican Party Chairman Brian Schimming spoke at that rally. Brian, welcome to the War Room. And to start, I would just like you to give our audience a sense of what the scene was like on the ground there in Mossonee. There was a tremendous show of support for President Trump. What was the energy like on the ground?
Lights out. It was unbelievable. I'm not a good crowd guesstimator, but the law enforcement and other folks I talked to there thought it was in excess of 10,000. So there was people as far as the eye could see. Donald Trump has done very well in that area of the state, kind of the northern third of the state. Mosinee is essentially central Wisconsin, north central Wisconsin. A lot of support for the president up there. We need to identify more of it and turn them out, and that's part of my job.
As for the president's remarks, what are some of the policies that he talked about that really resonated with the crowd there? What are some of the policies that really drive home his support in Wisconsin?
Yeah, top three issues really for a lot of our coalition, of course, are the economy and inflation. And I always say I have a kitchen table test for anyone who sits and listens to Kamala Harris or Joe Biden talk about how they, what they're going to do. Because the truth of the matter is, people can listen to their nonsense and listen to government reports and do all of that, but then they go to the grocery store and reality hits immediately. So I always say I have a grocery store test because, and I travel clear across the state. I have been for 35 years. I've worked for 3 former Republican governors. We work very, very closely with the Trump campaign, literally every single day. And the truth of the matter is it's the economy and it's inflation. I would say it's the border. Because now the border is every state. I'm a former city councilman in Whitewater, Wisconsin, where you've been hearing about the issue of the 1,000 illegal immigrants being dumped into Whitewater, Wisconsin, which is a town of 14,000 people. I mean, this is not a big city. So 1,000 new people coming in has a direct impact on the economy there and on law enforcement and other issues. I would say also violent crime. We see that consistently as I travel the state. I talk to everybody. I always say, maybe I've been around too long, but I don't need a focus group. I go around and talk to folks all over the state and not just Republicans. And the issues that resonate for President Trump are ones that are working here in Wisconsin. We've had 12 races. Historically, get this, we've had 12 races in 24 years in Wisconsin that have been decided by less than 30,000 votes. 12 races. So the importance of our work, not only in convincing people and getting to the president, also talked about early vote and voting early at the rally in Mosinee. And I was the first state chairman in the country to roll out an early vote campaign. And because I got to deal with reality. I don't get to sit in the cheap seats. I got to deal with reality. In Wisconsin, we have early voting. If I could sit down and change the elections law today, I would, but I can't. I got a Democrat governor here. But we have one of the biggest election integrity operations, if not the biggest in the country here in Wisconsin. And so my attitude has always been, as Wisconsin goes, so goes the country.
You talked to me about how tight those margins are. And when it comes to election integrity, what has changed from 2020?
What has changed is, I think in 2020, that thing on the wrong, what has changed from 2020 is that conservatives and Republicans, I think, have gotten more understanding that when you don't have your hands on the levers of the process and you're not involved in the process of people being able to vote, my philosophy, and I think the philosophy of the RNC and Chairman Whatley, is we want Republicans or conservatives in the room when people are voting and when the vote is counted. If people ask me operationally what our attitude is, we want people in the room when people vote and when the votes are counted. So to the extent that we can do that, that is a top priority. For us, we recruited almost 6,000 people to be poll workers. I kind of have said to people the whole time, look, as I say, I don't love all parts of the election law, but when you're state chairman, you got to deal with reality. So we put almost 6,000 people on lists to be local poll workers, and we ask and try to work with local local clerks when we can. We want to, and if we think they're doing something wrong, we advise them of it, and if they don't change, we sue them. And we have showed that we are willing to do that over and over and over again. So we'll have almost 6,000 poll workers. We'll have thousands of observers as well, and up to 500 attorneys. So I'm not messing around. It is important to me. I was on the president's recount 4 years ago. I have done other recounts in the state. I'm fairly familiar with recount law in this state and state elections law. And so I just, when I took over as chairman, I said, look, we're done playing checkers. We got to play chess on this thing, and we're going to.
Tim Walz announced that he will be visiting Wisconsin on Friday. And of course, Kamala Harris isn't going to be paying a visit because she's running more of a basement campaign. But as for the debate, it's really the first time that we're seeing her exposed in this fashion. For Wisconsin voters, what impact do you think tomorrow's debate will have?
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, the truth of the matter is, and it gets to your earlier question, the truth of the matter is the Democrats are still upside down on every major issue, whether it's the economy and inflation, whether it's the border or violent crime. Take the candidates out of it for a second. They're upside down in the polling on all those three major issues, kind of kitchen table issues that people talk about in their day-to-day lives. They're upside down. If Kamala Harris she's trying to, I saw one of her ads again the other day talking about how the future starts now. Well, that's because she can't have any part of her record start 3.5 years ago, because she will lose the election. If she's tied to Joe Biden, I mean, let's just be candid about it. If she's tied to Joe Biden and Joe Biden's record, which she should be, if she's tied to that, she loses this election. I mean, people understand it. It kind of gets back to the old Reagan question. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? You ask people that question in Wisconsin, in all the target states, and almost all the states of the country, and they know that they are not better off than they were 4 years ago. So I think that's the big thing tomorrow night is the Democrats can't win without just savaging President Trump. That's from the moment he came down the escalator, they've been savaging this guy. And I think the American people know that. I really think that's kind of built in a little. And it's interesting now because we're seeing, we are seeing the polling, the supposed Harris, honeymoon in the polling, right? Post-Democrat convention. I thought a lot of the front end of that polling was frankly relief that Joe Biden wasn't on the ticket anymore. So to whatever extent there's a Harris honeymoon in the polling, at some point on the honeymoon, you check out of the hotel and you go home. And I think voters are doing that now. And I think the number I saw this morning was 30 or 31% of the voters didn't think they knew enough about Kamala Harris to make a decision. So I think what happens tomorrow night at the debate, but also generally for the next 8 weeks, is very, very important. If Kamala Harris is made to account for her actual record as vice president in the U.S. Senate, as the DA in San Francisco, she doesn't win this race.
Talk to me about polling by demographic groups, particularly when it comes to age. Wisconsin is a big university and college hub. How is President Trump faring with younger voters in particular?
Yeah, I think better than people expect. In fact, I just left a meeting where we were talking about this very topic. Wisconsin has a very large higher educational infrastructure. We have 13 four-year state schools, another 12 now, I guess it is, two-year schools attached to the 13. So you have 25 campuses attached to the University of Wisconsin system alone, and then about 20 private colleges and university on the private side. And so we have a huge higher educational infrastructure. So a goal, I think, for us, but also a lot of the third-party groups here in the state is working those colleges. A lot of these people are, freshmen and sophomores who have not voted in an election before. So I've encouraged the campaign and the third-party groups and others to get onto those campuses, because I think Donald Trump, to a lot of those folks, it's freedom and opportunity, where that is not what she's about. And so to me, Newt Gingrich told me once at lunch about, 20, 25 years ago in Denver, he said 70% of the people who make a partisan decision by age 25 keep it the rest of their lives. So that's been a big emphasis for me as state chairman is getting to that demographic, because I think they're there to be had. And frankly, it's a long-term issue. We need to get to folks there. That's not, I will say things that are not always popular in Republican circles about early vote and about getting to younger people and things like that, but we have to do it.
Brian, in these final critical weeks, what is your call to action for people to get involved?
Our call to action is to join with us on Trump Force 47, which is the Trump campaign's national sign up for volunteers to go door to door. I want to get people to vote early. I want to get people to vote legally, and for us to be able to watch that progress through our excellent election integrity outfit. I want to get to new voters, to people who haven't voted before. I always say to groups, in fact, I just did this over the weekend after I left the Trump event. There are hundreds of, think about this. There are hundreds of thousands of people out there, just in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's about 6 million people, by the way. There are hundreds of thousands of people out there who think like us, who act like us, who live like us, and who believe like us, but they don't vote. We have to get to those voters. And it's not just young people, by the way. There's hundreds of thousands of hunters, for just as an example, not necessarily NRA, but hunters, people who have hunters. There are a lot of those people out there that they aren't necessarily Republican or even conservative, but once they realize what the choice is between this election, which is a flat out anti-Second Amendment person in Kamala Harris, and a firearms freedom person like Donald Trump, we have to talk to those people. We can't be afraid as well to talk to other groups, whether they're in the Hispanic community or in the African-American community. I have 2 offices in Milwaukee for those groups. And in the Hispanic community, I always remind people, school choice, which primarily in parts of south side of Milwaukee affects Hispanic families, school choice was born on the south side of Milwaukee here in Wisconsin under Governor Thompson. So I say to folks, look, don't do just what we always did before. We lose when we do what we always did before. I'm interested in winning, and that means reaching out to where the problems are and to where the voters are, and that's not something the Republicans ought to do, especially in this election, because I think America is at stake in this election. I really believe that.
Big time. Brian, where can the War Room Posse go to follow you and get involved with the Wisconsin GOP?
Well, they can follow me on Twitter, and I wish you would, at Brian Schimming, BrianSchiming, at Brian Schimming. And also they can go to wisgop.org, wisgop.org, and sign up to be part of Trump Force 47. It's unbelievable that we got that we have less than 60 days to go, but we do. And if we're going to save this country, as President Trump said when I was with him yesterday, we have to go all out, and we have to do it now. To me, there's no choice. This is about saving America, and we have less than 60 days to do it. So let's go do it.
100%. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
I want to welcome my next guest, Mike Gableman. Now, Mike, last year there was an unfortunate occurrence in that the Wisconsin Supreme Court flipped from majority conservative to majority liberal. Now, you served on that Supreme Court. Tell us what impact that has had on the state election laws.
It's had an absolutely huge and terrible impact on election integrity in our state, and that's evidenced by the recent ruling a few weeks ago by the 4 hardcore leftists who now control the court, when they took up a ruling that our state Supreme Court had just given a few months ago, outlawing, saying that these unsupervised drop boxes placed at random places around the state, according to each of the 1,852 clerks, we had outlawed those. Our state Supreme Court had outlawed those and said they are not authorized by law. And traditionally, and when I was on the court, we did not take up cases just because the composition of the court had changed. So in other words, I had the opportunity to reverse rulings that prior courts had made, but for the sake of stability of the law. And in fact, this ruling a few weeks ago from the 4 leftists, we have 7 members of the Wisconsin Supreme Court, so 4 is a majority. So now they say anything that any of the 1,852 clerks wants to do as far as collecting ballots is just fine, which is ludicrous. It's absurd. And one of the conservative members of the court, Justice Rebecca Grassel Bradley, pointed out in her very well-written dissent that this could mean that if any of the clerks decided that a brown paper bag sitting out at the end of her driveway was a good enough collection spot for ballots, then according to the ruling of the 4 leftists who reversed the settled law and the plain language of the law, that brown paper bag would be just fine. But I want to interject one thing. I listened to my friend Brian Schimming, and I think I want to say one thing that we haven't mentioned between either Brian or myself yet. The most critical thing for this November election is for all of us to really start praying to Almighty God. We must return, we must pray fervently and earnestly that our country re-elects Donald Trump. I do agree with my friend Brian when he says that this election is for the future of the country. The other thing I agree, and I would urge all of your viewers, Brian mentioned towards the end of his interview, he said that there are tens and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in our state alone who would vote for Donald Trump, but as a habit, as a matter of routine, they simply don't vote. They don't see the importance of voting, or for whatever reason, they just don't vote. It is critical that all of us who care about voting, who care about this election, that we reach out to everyone within our orbit of association, of friendship, of relationship of any kind, that we urge them to vote. The slim majorities that people have been declared the winner. Out of 3 million votes cast, people are declared the winner of presidential races in Wisconsin by anything from 5,000 votes. He said 30. I think it's a lot closer to 20,000. So we're talking very narrow margins, and every vote is going to be critical. So 2 things. As St. Augustine said, pray as if it's up to God, work as if it's up to us. And our work is to reach out to our friends, to our relations who might not otherwise vote, and get them out to vote and to vote for Donald Trump. So I'm sorry to interject that. That's not why you're having me on your program, but I really do feel compelled to say that.
What is your recommendation for people in Wisconsin to get involved and get boots on the ground?
No one is going to save you. No one is going to help us. No one's going to save us. The state party structure we have at the top of it, the reality of the situation is this. The most powerful Republican in our state, Speaker Voss, is a never-Trumper. And Speaker Robin Voss controls the Republican Party of Wisconsin. So I am glad to hear my friend Chairman Schimming.
Brian, I want to get more on that after the break. Coming up, more Mike Gableman, and we'll get his assessment on Robin Voss. Stay tuned.
In these crazy times, there is peace of mind in security. Security for our country, security for our leaders, and security for our families. But you're not financially secure if all your eggs are in one basket. Gold and silver are an excellent way to diversify your savings. They're a hedge against inflation. With Birch Gold Group, you can own physical gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account. Secure your family's savings today. Text Bannon to 989898 and receive a free info kit on gold. Plus, this August only, Birch Gold is giving away free Trump silver coins with any purchase. This brand new one-of-a-kind silver coin features Trump boldly raising his fist in the moments after the attempt on his life. Don't miss your chance to own this special piece of history, a celebration of a leader dedicated to our security, preserved in the security of a precious metals coin. Secure your savings today and get your free Trump silver coins. Text Bannon to 989898 today. That's Bannon to the number 989898. Homes across America are being stolen every day. It's called title theft, and it's why you need to get home title protection from HomeTitleLock.com today. If no one's keeping an eye on your title, then it's just a matter of time until they target you too. Don't fall prey to these thieves. Go to HomeTitleLock.com today and make sure your title is safe. Use promo code Bannon and get a complete title scan of your home's title and your first 30 days of triple lock home title protection for free. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Bannon.
All this nonsense, all this spin, they can't handle the truth.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. My name is Jane Zirkle, filling in for political prisoner Steve Bannon. I am joined by Mike Gableman. Mike, before the break, you were getting into it, but what is your beef with Robin Vos?
I don't have a beef with him. Robin is what Robin is. What I'm telling you, you've asked me what the message is for everyone who wants to see Donald Trump elected. And my response to you is that it's up to you. You cannot rely on the institutions or the so-called leaders who you think should or ought to be looking out for your best interests, who ought to be helping you get Donald Trump elected. The most powerful Republican in our state, a man named Robin Vos, who is the Speaker of the Assembly, who controls the legislature with an iron fist. He is a never-Trumper who has promised to do everything he can to see to it that Donald Trump is not reelected. And I'm afraid from what I've seen of the Republican National Committee and other groups and organizations that you would think would be leading the way on legal challenges and on political fights, that a lot of those groups have at the top people who are against Donald Trump. And so for our listeners, for our viewers, if Donald Trump is to be reelected in November, it is up to you and you alone, and it is up to your efforts. No group, no entity, no so-called leader is going to go out of their way to help you one bit. They are going to do precisely what they perceive to be in their own selfish and self-interested point of view. That's just how our system is set up. That's the reality of how government works. This is up to you, and it is up to your individual efforts to reach out.
Mike, you have been at the forefront of many election integrity challenges. What are some of the positive things that have come out of those that we can look forward to in this election?
I will tell you the biggest piece of positive news. I start with the reality, with the honesty to your listeners and viewers, that nothing legally has changed since 2020. The whole infrastructure is still set up in the corrupt fashion that it was in 2020. What has changed, the biggest factor of positive news, is that we do not have deployed in our state, that I am aware of, any of the multitude of Mark Zuckerberg paid agents infiltrating or embedded, as they used the word in 2020, into our clerk's offices in some of our 5 largest cities in the state, where they were actively hired to hunt down and harvest ballots from pro-Biden voters. So for whatever reason, Mark Zuckerberg and people like him have chosen not to do that this time around. That means, to me, that means that the people of this state at least have an honest chance of having their views, their ballots accurately represent the untampered, unmediated view of the voters. So that's a huge factor. I'm so glad to see Elon Musk taking an interest in helping President Trump. I would love to see Peter Thiel, who is so intelligent, has so many resources, and has been such a supporter of J.D. Vance. But right now, the most positive news that I have to report is that the Mark Zuckerberg ballot harvesting agents are not present in our state. And I thank God for that.
Yeah, that's a big win for sure. Mike, keep up the great work, keep fighting, and thank you so much for joining me today. I want to welcome my next guest, Sam Markstein. Sam, I had the pleasure of attending the RJC with you last week in Las Vegas. It was a historic event. Of course, this is an annual conference, but I think this year it was all the more impactful, seeing as how this is playing out in the aftermath of October 7th. Of course, the tragedy that just occurred last week with the murder of 6 hostages, including American Hirsch Goldberg, Poland. Talk to me about the event and the impact that post-October 7th has had on the Republican Jewish coalition.
Well, thanks for having me this afternoon. There's no question that as we just hit 11 months since the horrific Hamas attacks against Israel, and as you just referenced, the brutal murder of those 6 innocent hostages at the hands of barbaric Hamas terrorists, that the Republican Jewish coalition continues to play a really integral role in the political landscape. We had over 1,000 of the most active and influential Jewish Republicans in the country gathered in Las Vegas for a couple of days to meet and greet and celebrate the fact that the Republican Party truly is the only pro-Israel party. And I say that with a little bit of sadness because support for Israel, support for the Jewish community should be a bipartisan issue. Those sorts of topics should not have to be a needle that needs to be threaded by people like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And so I think overall it was really a tremendous week of pro-Israel, pro-Jewish community support as we hit these last 56 days between now and November 5th.
A common theme that was brought up by the speakers and President Trump in particular is that we do not negotiate with terrorists here or abroad. What does that look like from a policy standpoint, and how has the current administration failed at that?
Well, there's no question that under Donald Trump, America's allies knew that we stood with them, and America's enemies feared us. Just ask Qasem Soleimani, just ask Baghdadi, just ask the mullahs in Tehran who were isolated and broke under President Trump's campaign of maximum pressure. What you have now is the Iranians have hundreds of billions of dollars to fund their terrorist proxies like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like the Houthis all around the world to attack Americans and Israelis alike. And, when they chant death to Israel, death to America, Israel is just the appetizer on the menu. America has always been the main course for them. And as you see in various reporting, these protesters on college campuses and in our streets are also taking allegedly funding from sources of influence in Iran. And so as Prime Minister Netanyahu said in his remarks to a joint session of Congress last month, these are just Iran's useful idiots who continue to go around and spew pro-terrorist talking points. So I think the contrast on this subject is really, really clear. With President Trump, we had unprecedented levels of peace and security. With Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, we've got historic lows in the U.S.-Israel relationship and skyrocketing anti-Semitism here at home. It really is a pivotal moment for the American Jewish community, and I hope that your listeners and folks around the country understand that and will vote accordingly in November.
RNC spokeswoman Elizabeth Pipko talked about how we've reached a moment in time that in the same city, New York City, where the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center happened almost 23 years ago, we're now seeing Sharia supremacy and terrorist sympathizers just run rampant across the college campuses and across the city. How did we get here? And what are we doing to combat this? What is going to change under the Trump administration to take care of this?
Well, as a native New Yorker, September 11th is always a somber day for New Yorkers. And so we recognize that almost 23 years to the day this week of those horrible terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and at the Pentagon and other sites across the country. And so I would just say that with President Trump, those who have these pro-Hamas tendencies on college campuses, for example, if you're a foreign student, you lose your visa, you're gone. President Trump signed historic executive order extending Title VII protections to students so they could sue for anti-Semitism on college campuses. With President Trump, students on college campuses felt safe when they went to class. If you were a Jewish American walking to the streets wearing a yarmulke, you felt safe. That is no longer the case nowadays. Over 70% of Jewish students on college campuses have experienced anti-Semitism firsthand or know someone that has. Almost half of American Jews have reported feeling unsafe wearing religious symbols in public, and almost half of Jewish students on campus have been afraid to tell their classmates that they're Jewish. And so this is really a scary moment for the American Jewish community. It's a scary moment for America, and I think that the debate tomorrow night will really shed some light on what Kamala Harris is planning to do about all this, because she's asking for another 4 years when she's been in charge. And the last person in the room, she's been bragging about that for years with Joe Biden. You know, what's she going to do differently? She's asking for a promotion when her job record really does not even deserve to stay in office, for another day. I think, right now Joe Biden is MIA. He's at the beach. Kamala Harris is throwing out talking points on her website for the first time, talking about issues. Tim Walz is saying the protesters are, doing all this for the right reasons, while Kamala Harris appeases them and Joe Biden thinks they've got a point. I mean, to me, it really is a most important election of our lifetimes. And, with President Trump, for peace, for security, he's got to be your vote for president. Kamala Harris is just weak, incompetent, dangerously liberal, and someone that can't be trusted by the American Jewish community to be good on these issues for us.
At the conference, we heard from several Democrats, or former Democrats, I should say, that have now endorsed President Trump, saying that they didn't leave the Democrat Party left them. Do you believe that this is a big trend that we'll see for the Jewish community in this election?
There's no doubt that the trend lines have been moving towards the Republican Party cycle after cycle. And just to give you some context on this, in 2016, President Trump received 24% of the national Jewish vote. In 2020, he received over 30% of the national Jewish vote. And to give you some additional context on that, you'd have to go all the way back to Ronald Reagan in 1980 to find a Republican nominee for president that met that threshold. And the numbers get even better in the battleground states that actually determine the winner of the presidency, because while national numbers are great for certain things, it really doesn't matter, what a Jewish American living in the Upper West Side or, Chicago or Beverly Hills has to say. It matters what the Jewish American voters in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, and Michigan have to say. And those numbers look even better. In 2020, President Trump received almost 45% of the Jewish vote in Florida. He received almost 50% of the Jewish vote in Georgia. So the trend lines are certainly moving in the right direction. And given everything that's happened over the last 11 months since October 7th with skyrocketing anti-Semitism, I believe that President Trump will continue to build on the success that he's had over the last couple of years and improve on his standing with the Jewish community over 2020 numbers.
We love to see it. Sam, where can the people follow you and support the RJC?
Well, thank you for that. You can find us at www.rjchq.org, or you can follow us on Twitter at RJC. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Look, Tax Network USA has resolved over $1 billion in tax debts, and they offer a best-in-class client satisfaction guarantee. This is the team I recommend to solve your IRS issues so you can get your life back. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Bannon. tnusa.com/Bannon. I want to welcome my next guest, Noah Formica, the grassroots superstar with Turning Point Action in Pennsylvania. Noah, I know there is a big debate night watch party going on with Scott Pressler. Tell us about it.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me, and prayers to Steve Bannon, our favorite political prisoner. So our debate watch party is happening tomorrow at the Greater Philly Expo Center. We are going to be there at 6 p.m. And, we're going to have hundreds of patriots there who are going to, listen to both candidates talk. And, I think it's going to be a good time, and you're going to have Scott Presser, you're going to have Cliff Maloney, our great friends at Early Vote Action, PA Chase. And, we're going to get to watch Donald Trump BTFO Kamala Harris.
You're talking to voters on the ground all the time, constantly. What are some of the points that you hope President Trump hits on to sway Pennsylvania voters during this debate?
Well, Pennsylvania is a big state with oil and gas. So, I hope he hits at the oil and gas policies that, have been prevalent under the Biden administration. And I don't know if you just recently saw last night, reports in Ohio where migrants are eating pets, cats and dogs. So, there's a lot of pet owners here in Pennsylvania. So you really want to reach that demographic as well. But also gun owners, because there is a huge gun owner population and hunter population here in the state of Pennsylvania, and a lot of them aren't registered to vote. It's around 30 to 40% in a state where there's 940,000 hunters. So, that being said, if he talks about, hey, I'm here to protect your guns, and, goes full, he just says exactly what Kamala Harris's policies are. Hey, she wants to ban guns. She wants to get rid of our weapons. So, letting people know, her stance on things and, how radical left she is, I think that's going to be instrumental in making sure he wins Pennsylvania.
President Trump just put out a Truth Social post, if Denver could display that now, saying how 20% of Pennsylvania mail-in ballots were found to be fraudulent. And he asked, where's the FBI, where's the AG on this, and where's the Republican Party? So, Noah, if you could just respond to that.
Well, I will tell you, we probably need a milk carton for our state party because they aren't really making a huge response about this issue. But I will tell you, our county GOPs, our local grassroots, they're working tirelessly to make this issue on the forefront and make people aware, hey, this is going on, bringing about issues like clearing the voter rolls here in Pennsylvania of people who should not be on the rolls anymore. And I will tell you, Tucker Carlson is 100% right. You could easily get 20%, fake mail-in ballot votes here in the state of Pennsylvania. I know the voter registration form from it's like a book at this point for me. I know it all. So, on the back of it, there's a section where you can request a mail-in ballot, and it says a different mailing address as follows. And for this section, what you can do is you can put a different state. So people don't even have to live in the state to receive a mail-in ballot. So somebody could be in New Jersey and get a ballot for this in the state of Pennsylvania, just as long as they find an address here in Pennsylvania that they can register under. But I will tell you, because we're at the point right now where we do have to use mail-in ballots, sadly, and I hate it because I used to be against mail-in ballots. But September 16th is when early voting starts, and October 21st is the last day people can register to vote here in the state of Pennsylvania. In Luzerne County, they were shorted in 2022 on paper ballots. There's so many Republicans who couldn't make their voice heard. In other cases, Bucks County, when the special election just happened, they had 9 inches of snow. And for each inch of snow, that precipitates 1% of the vote. So what we're trying to really encourage here is, we're trying to get more people to register to vote. We're trying to get more people to vote by mail. And we're going after the people who aren't going to make it on election day. The hunter, the Amish Mennonite, the trucker, even a lot of our veterans. Even our people of faith as well, which 1.5 million people of faith in Pennsylvania stayed out of the 2020 election. So we're going after these people big time. And I can tell you, in 2022, the Democrats, they had a huge advantage over us on mail-in ballots here in the state of Pennsylvania. This year alone, 2024, Democrats have 753,631 mail-in ballot requests. GOP, we doubled it. Now we have 290,173. So we're putting up a good ground game, and we're trying to amplify the efforts, get more people to vote by mail. Because, the last day people can vote by mail is Election Day at 8 p.m.
Noah, we have about 30 seconds left. Where can the people follow you and get involved with Turning Point Action?
So people can follow me on Twitter at N-Formica GOP, N-F-O-R-M-I-C-A GOP, N-F-O-R-M-I-C-A GOP. And you can also follow our organization at TP Action _ go to our website, tpaction.com, get involved with us. We're always being the boots on the ground. I can tell you in Johnstown, we registered 87 voters at the Trump rally.